Welcome back to the Northern Steel Podcast. I'm your host, Dominic, and this is my brother, Chris. And we are back from a 1-week hiatus. I know you've missed us. I know you've been just dreaming of the day you could hear our similar voices through those eardrums. And here we are, baby. We're back.
Emails upon messages upon emails that I wrote out to people to please reach out to us.
We get it, guys. You love us. We get it. We're so popular and famous. I understand. But you know what? That week of hiatus was useful because now we got something to talk about. There's a lot of stuff going on. For example, today was the first day of training camp, baby. Welcome. Football's here.
Woohoo! Big stuff.
I was clapping. I know that probably sounded a little suspect. Sounded like I was maybe clapping something else. But I was clapping my hands. For people listening.
And as you guessed it, with Dom bringing up training camp, we are going to jump right into picking our top special teamers of all time.
Yes, sir. So we got
Boz.
I was trying to think of like someone who sucks. Mitch Berger, Hunter. There we go.
There we go.
Okay. Not to get too far off task for everyone who's listening, but speaking of special teamers. Have you seen there is a video posted by the Steelers of kind of going back to Latrobe, and they had some guys who were mic'd up from minicamp, and I've seen a bunch of like booth audio, but have you seen this video before of some guys that are mic'd up during minicamp and them talking and stuff?
Very little bit, but not a whole lot.
So there's the video they posted, and like I've seen Moose stuff. TJ Watt was mic'd up. Cam Sutton was mic'd up. He's like really vocal, which is really cool. But they mic'd up Christian Kuntz, the long snapper, and I love when they do that, man. Because no joke, I'm not even just saying this. Like he made me a fan. Like I wouldn't have gave two dollops about Christian Kuntz and his career, and they cut him. Before watching that video, if they cut him, I'd been like, right, whatever. Someone else can snap the ball. But that's why I like those videos, because you got to see his personality. You got to hear about like where he came from. And he's just like a cool, down-to-earth dude. And now I'm rooting for him. Now I'm like, oh, this guy's sick. I hope he's our long snapper for a long time, because he's just a nice dude. I don't know. It's hard to say. But if you haven't heard that, I'd recommend that to the listeners. I'd recommend that to you, Chris. It was really enjoyable to listen to.
Dude, honestly, I gotta say, I think special teamers carry the most personality of anyone on the team. I remember my time being an athletic training student at South Dakota State, and granted, collegiate is way different than NFL, but like literally when I would go into those like 6 a.m. practices to basically hand out water bottles, it was like everyone was practicing, and then it was literally like there's no just structure for special teamers, right? They literally are like, all right, you guys are in that corner, and like you kick a couple times, you punt a couple times, then they just mess around the whole time, and then they'll just come and hang out next to us because they're like, we don't get told to do anything, but like they're so funny and just really like to do their own thing. They literally, like, look at Pat McAfee, man. Like, no wonder he shows such a success, because he's so funny, and I'm like, you're weird, and I love it.
And it's not like Christian was like necessarily funny, but it was more like they talked about how he was like a superstar athlete in high school, and then he went to Duquesne College, and he was a linebacker. And actually, he played outside linebacker for us in a preseason one year. He was like number 99, I think, for us, and he had a couple sacks here and there, but he got cut, he got released. And he came back. He switched up his entire thing because he figured, I'm not going to make it in the NFL as an outside linebacker. Let me be a long snapper. And good for him. He made the team. He's got a roster spot. I don't think he's going to give that up. Funny enough, in the video, TJ Watt was long snapping, and he was really good at it. And he kept staring Christian in the eyes every time he did it well. but hey, that's Christian's spot. That's a fun video. I would definitely recommend watching that for sure. Good time. Before we get to the meat and potatoes about training camp starting today, let's talk about some Steeler news that happened this past week. The first thing I want to talk about, Chris, isn't even really Steeler news, but more like Steeler story-esque that I think people like to make as news. I don't really it's not really news to us. You know, Chris and I don't really like to talk about drama, but I feel like I feel like I have to like discuss this a little bit. So Ben Roethlisberger, he had an interview, maybe this past week, a couple days ago, with and it was a written interview. And in there, he had said a lot of stuff. And if you've been following Big Ben for a long time, I think you guys know that he can kind of say things off the handle. Even when he was in the NFL and he was quote unquote media trained, he would still say things off the handle. I mean, think about that Jags game where he threw 5 picks and he was like, maybe I just don't have it anymore. And everyone lost their minds for the whole season. He just like says things. And now that he's not on the team, he can be more outlandish with it. So he said some things that I just like really don't agree with. One of them being that when he came into the league and won Super Bowls, it was a team first oriented team or a team first atmosphere. And now there's a bunch of me first players, which there isn't. I wouldn't say every player is a me first player. There's a bunch of team guys on the Steelers. A lot of, especially the defense with Cam and TJ and offensively too. A lot of the linemen were team guys. Juju was a huge team guy. Sure, he had social media and he liked to have fun, but he was a big team player. Pretty much the only me guys I can think of that were super me were AB and Le'Veon, right? Also, Ben was kind of a me guy, to be honest. And if you're unhappy with the way people are being me guys, aren't you like the leader of the team? You're the quarterback. Maybe you should speak up on that. So that was already something that was kind of ruffling my feathers a little bit.
I mean, you are the vocal point. Everyone looked at Ben Roethlisberger as the leader because he was the person who had the longest tenure on the Pittsburgh Steelers. But like you said before, I don't know. Ben has been a person throughout his entire career where he could say 100% the right thing, and then you'll interview him again, and you'll be like, "What? Like what?
Right,
what are you talking about?" You know? And I don't know.
He also said, I mean, Cam Hayward on his podcast also like disputed that claim. By the way, also for media out there that likes to take things, he even said in his podcast, "This isn't me bashing Ben. This isn't me like thinking Ben is wrong." He's like, this is just like my opinion on the matter. And everyone's like, Cam and Ben are fighting. What's going on in the world? Everyone needs to just relax. I know it's mostly media doing that. Just relax. That's not what that is. But Ben also said in another interview, or in the same interview, sorry, in another part of that interview, rather, he had said that he still thinks he could play, that he had a good year last year, and that the only reason why he retired is because Kevin Colbert didn't want him anymore. Mike Tomlin was indifferent about him, but Art Rooney wanted him. But there wasn't enough people that wanted him back for him to stay. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Boss. Real honest with you. It's a stretch to say he had a good year. He didn't have a terrible year. By this comparison, you know, I know he had some injuries too and lost his best receiver, but I saw a really funny tweet, a little off Steelers. If you had seen Kyler Murray got his contract, he got a contract extension, and with some really funny stipulations in his contract. We can get to I can touch that in a bit, but they showed his stats last year to be like, is this guy worth $160 million guaranteed? His stats last year were very, very similar to Ben's. And I would say it was like Ben's like worst year last year. And his stats are about the same. So, no, Ben wasn't good. Wasn't terrible, but he wasn't good. I don't think he could still play. It was mostly because of his arm strength. That was like the biggest thing.
I was going to say, if we're going to defend Kyler Murray in this regard, I mean, you're probably looking at about 1 billion more pass attempts for Ben, just because everything he did was like short screens or whatever. And I remember you and I talked a lot about this early on in the season, especially when we got Najee Harris, the talent in the backfield. We were like, if Ben could throw for less attempts than 25 in a game, I would feel pretty dang accomplished. But I feel like for a while we saw like 30, 32, 37 and everything. So I feel like comparing the two is apples to oranges. And like,
sure,
I don't know. and speaking more on Ben Roethlisberger, aside from the whole Kyler Murray thing, is like, yeah, it really wasn't a good year for him. Like you said, it wasn't bad by any means, but like I felt like even the moments when he had his completions or plays that ended up working out, they just kind of seemed awkward. I mean, there were definitely some throws he made where I'm like, wow, maybe he still got it. But then, like, I'd say 70% of the time I was like, wow, that just didn't look comfortable. Like, that didn't look right to me.
Oh, totally.
So and I obviously love Ben. I would love to be that person to be like, the gunslinger still got it. He could come back and everything, but like you go through surgery like that, you age and everything. There's going to be so much on that arm. If Ben never hurt his arm and it was just an age factor, I could be like, sure, because I'm sure he'd still have some strength left. But I feel like that surgery definitely put him out of the contest.
You are right. I was curious when you said if he threw more passes. Ben did throw more passes. He threw about 120 more passes this season than Kyler Murray did. So Kyler Murray's percentage was a lot better. I think that's like the biggest mark, the completion percentage. His is almost 70. Ben's is 64.5. But the base stats, if you don't look into like the per game, because Kyler Murray's per games are better, but the base stats of the year, I mean, Kyler Murray had 37.87 on yards. Ben had 37.40, only a 47-yard difference. Interceptions, they both had 10. Touchdowns, Kyler had 24, Ben had 22. So very like similar stats for a guy that got a big contract. But regardless, no, Ben, you cannot have played this year. We love you to death. We appreciate what you did for Pittsburgh, for the Steelers. But it was time to be done. And that was just, when he did that interview, people were messaging me and being like, oh, did you see what Ben had said? And it's like, honestly, man, that's just Ben being Ben. He's going to say some things that I really don't agree with. He's done that his whole career. But at the end of the day, that's just what he does. So I'm sure that won't be the last time we hear some craziness out of Ben Roethlisberger, for sure.
I was also going to say one more thing, too, which I find interesting looking at the Kyler Murray stats. He also only played 14 games last year.
Yeah, and Ben played 16, sure. Yeah, but you know what I mean? It still is like really, for a guy that, I guess my main argument was like for a guy that just got like a $160 million contract, the stats aren't jumping off at me. But still.
No. He also does run, which is nice.
But he also doesn't study. Did you see that in his contract?
Yeah, you know what? No.
You didn't see that?
I didn't. No.
Okay, let me touch on that real quick. If you haven't seen with Kyler Murray's contract, he had a stipulation, Chris, in his contract that said he has to do independent study 4 hours every week before games because he wasn't doing it at all. So in his contract, to earn his money, he has to do 4 hours of independent study, and team meetings don't count, film group talks with the coaches don't count, and he actually gets the bye week off. But he was not studying at all. So it's like the first time they had to like pretty much hold his hand and be like, you need to study to get this money. And that is wild. That was in his contract.
Now, if we talking about a me mentality, that kind of screams it out to me a little bit.
Totally. It's nuts. And like, I get it when you're really talented and you think you can beat it on that alone. But I mean, if you ever want like an idea of like how should a quarterback be when it comes to like studying things, and if you have any connection to the NFL, as Kyler Murray probably does, call up Peyton Manning, call up Tom Brady, and they're going to tell you all the amount of prep work they do, especially Peyton. But I know Tom Brady does his prep work too. But call those guys up and they'll tell you the amount of prep work they do is crazy as a quarterback, and you need to. So that's pretty nuts. That is pretty insane. So anyways, done with Ben, done with Kyler. There's that. A couple the only other Steeler news I know of is the Steelers cut Trey Edmonds. Rest in peace, my man. Which was kind of funny. I don't know, Chris, if you saw that CBS, like 4 hours before he was cut, tweeted that like the Steelers had 4 sets of brothers. They got rid of one of the sets.
Yeah, I saw that, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is such bad timing. And I scrolled like slightly more, and they tweeted again. They're like, according to Adam Schefter, he has been released. And I was like, gosh, you just like jinxed this so bad. Like, how do you literally have it so spot on that the guy literally gets cut like moments after you tweet like Steelers have 4 brothers?
I know, dude, totally. But you know, Trey, he had some highlights, but he doesn't get to play a lot. That's just the position he's in. I don't really blame them for cutting him. So rest in peace, Trey. We'll see you later, man. Join the Bills. Join your brother there. You know, do whatever you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the Steelers replaced him with a veteran running back that we all thought they would. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be David Johnson? Justin Jackson? Who's possibly the running back they're going to be? They picked up Jeremy McNichols. Now, he's a Steeler, so I'm not going to bash this dude. But first reaction, I should say, not impression, reaction, before watching any highlights, because I couldn't remember who this dude was, I was not pleased. But my attitude's obviously changed now that he's a Steeler.
You know, and it's so tough, right? Because obviously you and I discuss this all the time, but when there's guys like, who was it, Justin Jackson or,
David Johnson.
and David Johnson are out there. And I mean, David Johnson's kind of old, but I feel like I trust him more than Jeremy McNichols, you know, on our team and everything. So it's a little frustrating, especially being in that position of knowing that we need that second back. And then we go, these are 2 perfectly capable, suitable guys for us. But how cool would it be to have a guy named Jeremy dress behind Najee Harris? I think that is so unique. And you don't see many Jeremys anymore. Name me a Jeremy.
Jeremy Shockey. 2004 Giants.
Exactly. The olden days. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's true. I was kind of surprised I pulled that out. I was going to try to make a joke. I was like, oh, wait, I do know one. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's our first impression of McNichols, sure. But watching some highlights, you definitely see, like, there's a reason why they brought him. One, his pass protection's really solid as a running back, which is a huge plus, especially if they're going to bring him in on some double running back sets or just pass plays in general. His pass protection's really good. He showed some of that value today in training camp, and his pass catching is pretty good, which is kind of what we wanted anyways. We all know that Najee can kind of do it all, but he's a good pass catcher too. There's a great Titans highlight where they were 3rd and 21, and he caught a screen, and he broke a couple tackles and got the first down on 3rd and 21. Yeah, so he's definitely solid enough to play, for sure.
And the thing to definitely note here, too, is the fact that we're not bringing in the second guy, which to necessarily like go halvesies with Najee. Najee's a special talent, and he's going to be the, you know, full like load back for us. He's going to do whatever he can for us. But he even said it himself in a press conference. He's like, dude, I need a second back because we got to be smarter. And he admitted to last season saying there was times when I was out there and I could have used a break. I was tired and I did not perform as well as I could have. He's like, those were definitely not my best plays. So it's like, he knows of the situation. We know of the situation. I'm glad that the Steelers went out and addressed it. I'll be curious to see what happens with Jeremy McNichols. But I mean, he's a body, and it's something that maybe this could be a spot. The dude's been on 5. Let me see this again. I think this is his 5th team he's been on since he's joined in 2017.
Sure. Okay. I didn't know that. So, but a journeyman for sure.
Yeah.
But that brings us to a good segue, Chris, into why we're all here. Training camp has begun, and when you talked about being a second running back, it's time for position battles. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about training camp is watching position battles. Before we get started on that, I know I keep delaying it. I do want to give it one more quick shout out. We've said it a billion times. We tweeted it today. If you are a Steelers fan, please, 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 please follow Nick Farabaugh and Alex Kozora. They live tweet the training camps. They tweet the good and the bad. You get to see how the realistic stats of how players are doing. You get to feel the hype. You get to feel the depression. You get to experience all of it, and they're constant on the Twitter with that. So please follow them on Twitter. You'll get live reactions, live updates on what's happening in training camp, who's kind of rising up the rankings, what's going on. And I was glued to my phone today watching that. So definitely do that. Chris, what do you want to talk about with training camp first?
I mean, we've already addressed a little bit on the running back situation. So what if we kind of jumped into?
How about this? Before we jump into it, let's talk. Piggybacking off the running back, let's talk about all the battles that are going on in training camp.
Sure,
that is important. So, like running back, like you said, vying for that second running back spot, you got Jeremy McNichols, Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland, Mateo Durant. There's one more dude in there, correct? They're undrafted.
Are you talking about the Duke, or is that Mateo Durant?
No, was it? No.
I'll look it up real quick.
Okay. But those guys are all going to be fighting for a roster spot. I think the Steelers are only going to keep 3 running backs, to be honest. And I just named 4 in the second spot. So that's going to be a good battle to figure out who's going to make it. What you have for me, Chris? Who do you think?
Mateo Durant is the Duke guy. So I'm trying to find the... Yeah, that's a great question. Do
you look up undrafted free agents maybe from the Steelers side?
Yeah, listen, I know how to Google.
I don't know. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Hella slow.
Yeah, tell me about it, dude. It's a struggle right now. And you know what? I'm having a very tough time finding it. So I apologize.
I'll do it. Jeez.
No, Jaylen Warren.
Okay, there you go. So there's like 5 guys right there where they're battling out for the second running back spot and even the third running back spot, which could be really intense. Obviously, quarterback battle.
Yeah.
Mitch, Mason, Kenny. Who's going to move? Who's going to do what? Wide receivers. We got DJ, Claypool, Pickens, who all seem really solid right there. And then after that, it gets a little messy. You got Calvin Austin, you got Anthony Miller, you got Steven Sims, you got Miles Boykin, you got Tyler Vaughn, you got Gunnar Oshleski, if that's how you pronounce his name, I don't even remember. Tons and tons of dudes there. So that'll be a big battle. See who makes it, who doesn't. We don't have the GOAT anymore.
Offensive line.
Yeah, offensive line. Yeah, I was going to say we don't have the GOAT Rico Bussey anymore.
What a shame.
But yeah, offensive line, you're right. I think the biggest battle there, correct me if I'm wrong, might be maybe center, but mostly left guard, because it sounds like they're putting Dotson and Kendrick Green first team reps.
That's what is really blowing my mind in this whole thing, and I'm really glad that you brought that up because, you know, I feel like I'm so high on Kevin Dotson, and I feel like when he's healthy, he can be so good. And
totally.
And I feel like you and I said this before, even last year when we're like, when he was healthy, I felt like he was arguably our best blocker of last year's line, which last year's line was pretty garbage. I'm just going to go out and say that. But at the same time, you know,
especially his rookie year, he was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I feel like Dotson, maybe there's some behind the scenes stuff that we're not seeing because I know, like, I don't know. Sometimes I felt like he wouldn't play when we're like, was he injured or whatever? But, you know, and we've said it before. And heck, even Ben said it last year. He's like, how do you feel about Kendrick Green as a center? He's like, well, as a guard, I think he could be really good. So who knows?
Exactly.
When we said it too, it'd be nice to have him as a guard. I feel like he would be a better depth piece, but maybe he's making a name for himself. Maybe he's finally being like, hey, I'm comfortable. I'm no longer at that center position. I can excel at this position. So I'm really curious to see that battle and who edges out who.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to have a grudge against Kendrick Green after last year. But again, fans, he's a Steeler. You got to support who's in the black and gold, baby. You have to. And we like Dotson too, but if Kendrick Green ends up beating him out in training camp and preseason, it is what it is. He's the better lineman. I want the best line out there we can get. So,
also, I'm just going to say this too. Talking from a team that I feel like always loses a lineman every single year. Let's say Kendrick Green beats him out. I feel so confident having a guy like Dotson fill that spot rather than the guys that we've had before. So if anything,
Totally.
we definitely gain a depth piece, which is nice.
Yeah, yep, definitely. And besides offensive line, switching the field over, you have the defensive side of the ball. And the defensive line, there's some position battles there. A lot of battles going on pretty much after Cam. I mean, you could say Tyson Alualu has a spot too, but he is old.
I think so.
He is older, though. So there's a lot of people battling there. We'll touch more on that a little bit later. Inside linebackers, everyone past Miles Jack and Devin Bush. A lot of battles going on there with UG3, Buddy Johnson, Mark Robinson. We'll touch on a little bit later. Safety battles. They're not going to keep 6 safeties, and we have a lot. So Terrell and Minka are solid. Then you got Miles Killebrew. You got Trey Norwood. You got DeMonte Kazi. You got Carl Joseph, I believe his name. Carl Joseph. Those are much people to look out for. Cornerbacks. You know who our starters are. Sounds like Cam Sutton. He started today in the slot, which I think is good. I think that's where he excels, to be honest. And then, but after that, you have James Pierre. You have Justin Lane. You got this dude who had a pick today. We'll keep an eye on him as the days go on. So there's a lot of battles going on. Right, but he's already starting. But you're right, because he's a new face. It's nice to like watch him to see how he does. He had a couple breakups today. So yeah, lots of battles going on. Let's start with what everyone wants to talk about. Let's talk about the quarterbacks.
Let's get right into it.
Same order as minicamp. 1, 2, 3. Mitch, Mason, Kenny. You worried about it yet? I'm not.
Not really. I mean, I feel like the Steelers definitely know what they're doing, and I feel like, you know, each guy definitely could take the helm at that spot depending on who. Right. There's a lot happened today. You know, right. I feel like you were sending me tweets left and right, seeing everything that was going on. There was a lot of good that was going on. I felt like, and then obviously there's mistakes to be made or things that maybe aren't quite as appealing as we'd like them to be. But that's the beauty of it. We're getting right back to the swing of things. You want to touch on a little bit?
Well, I was going to say you're definitely right about about people not liking, you know, maybe the ups and downs, especially the downs. Because a perfect example is Mitch Trubisky. He did not start off today very hot. That's okay. It's the first day. You know, the new team, whatever. You know, whatever you want to say, right? He didn't start off hot today. I think he missed 2 straight incompletions, maybe 3 straight incompletions of bad-looking balls. And someone immediately yelled out from the crowd, put Kenny in there. So that's kind of where that's at already, of course, as you know. As far as, you know, Alex Kozora had posted some stats. I don't really want to read those because they were based on non-tackling and based on this or that. Here's what I saw from tweets from both Alex and Nick today who are live tweeting. Mitch definitely took his shots down the field. Especially a lot to Pickens. Had a deep bomb to Pickens. Pickens is playing really well right now. So if you're a big DJ fan, watch out for that. Who knows what they're going to pay him. He's definitely playing this year, which is going to be sick because the way they lined up the receivers, I know I'm going a little tangent, but it was DJ outside, George Pickens outside, and Claypool in the slot. And I said, if you remember, I said that in the spring, that's like the preferred way I want it. And I think... And it already kind of looked pretty good today. DJ didn't really play a lot from the outside, but George on the outside and Claypool in the slot looked good already. But Mitch was taking his chances. Mason was the most consistent, but he didn't wow anybody. He threw a lot of short stuff, a lot of checkdowns. I don't mean to be a Mason hater, but there was a tweet that said he threw a ball over the middle, like a crossing route, to Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller made a great catch, one-handed behind his back, but it just gave me Vietnam War flashbacks to 2019 when Mason Rudolph started, and it seemed like every time there's a crossing route over the middle, he always threw behind his guy. It sounds like he's still doing it. So there's that, but I guess he did have the most consistent day. And then Kenny, as you'd expect, up and down rookie. First day, up and down moments, you know, had some deep throws, had a good rip, had some good ball placement. for the things, but also had a pick. He threw the first interception of camp and had some not so great balls too. So he's kind of up and down where he was playing too. I guess in conclusion, that just where I'm at is I'm just excited to see some more. It was so awesome, just like regardless of like not all of them like went off and had this great day. It's just we're just in this new era. I think at first it seemed a little scary. They're like, oh no, we're not going to have Ben Roethlisberger. I don't know, man. I'm just like excited for any of them. I'm so pumped for the first preseason game to watch all these dudes play. Even Oladokin when he gets a chance. I just want to see all these dudes play. I'm excited to like just see someone new. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and I would say to summarize the day one of camp at the quarterback position, Kenny's definitely the fan favorite, and people want to see Kenny. They want to see him out there. And he's being absolutely loved and engulfed by the fans, which is a really cool thing. Especially, I feel like so many people before the draft are very, I don't know if I want Kenny. I think it's cool the way that people are accepting him in. And so I'd say he's definitely the fan favorite. He's making his rookie mark and making some good throws, but he's definitely, like you said before, is a rookie. He's playing like one. He made that one mistake. And that's just something, it's a learning curve. Right. Mason, I feel like to summarize is Mason. I feel like his completion percentage is always but his throws can be underwhelming at times. So I'll be curious to see if he can build that confidence and shoot it down the field more, and if he can lead better. And then I think Trubisky is more so just kind of dusting off the cobwebs, if I had to say. I think he wants to make those throws. He's trying to make those connections. He could on some of them, and he did on some of them. But obviously there's going to be some that are underthrown, some that are, not how you want them to be. But it's day one of camp. These things are going to happen. I'm excited to see more and hear more about it. So, and
we're not even in pads yet. Pads don't come on for a couple days still. They had the Guardian helmets, but they're still, it's still technically football in shorts. They're still not pads on. There's no contact either. I'm excited too with the receivers that are going on. George Pickens, first day on the field, lit it up like we all know he can. There's a great video online. I would show it here whenever this video goes on YouTube. I'm sure behind on that kind of stuff. But a great video of him making a very acrobatic catch. He has such control of his body, just like he did in college. He almost made another acrobatic catch, and when he came down with it, he dropped it, but that's okay. First day, he's put his body out there, made a sweet sideline grab deep down the field. He's very exciting. Calvin Austin took a screen pass, 61 yards to the house. Speedy boy. That boy quick. But what I was going to say, Chris, is like, I think all the fans are really big on Kenny Pickett. Like, we all want to see him play. We're all excited to watch him play. And I think, I know some people are going to freak out if he is still third stringer by the first preseason game. I think we have such a depth at wide receiver right now with some even bigger names that I wouldn't even mind watching him play to the third stringer level. Because you still have guys like Miles Boykin, Anthony Miller, like I said, Steven Sims, Tyler Vaughn. Like, those are decent catch, what am I trying to say? Those are decent receivers to throw balls to. And obviously I'm excited to watch Pickens and Calvin Austin, but it's nice to see this depth that I'm going to be excited to see him throw to anybody, really. Yeah.
Personally, I feel like the biggest battle out there for wide receivers is going to be at that number 4 spot, because I feel like even though I really want to see Calvin Austin get that role and everything, I feel like Anthony Miller definitely has a good shot. And I feel like especially having Trubisky in that backfield and having that history with Anthony Miller, obviously they're going to have some chemistry there and whatnot. So I think that's going to be the most interesting part of it. I think, everything I've heard from the players, from even the couple videos I've seen, Pickens seems like the real deal. He seems like a guy who can make a difference and make those catches. And I miss that because I feel like we haven't had that since Antonio Brown, as far as the contested part of it. So
I agree. And speaking of contested, that's why I like Claypool in the slot. Because I feel like the less contested balls he gets, honestly, the better. I know you might say, well, he had a down year. He can prove himself to be better. And sure, I'm sure he can. I still believe in Claypool. I think he will excel in the slot. I think he's a matchup nightmare for slot cornerbacks and nickel linebackers. That is a nightmare waiting to happen. So that's looking really good. So we touched on those rookies. Let's see. DeMarvin Leal, I heard he played really well as a rookie, defensive line. He snuck in there, got a couple tackles for loss. He's actually playing over Isaiah Loudermilk, who I actually like Loudermilk. He played well last year, so that's really interesting. He's playing over Loudermilk. Larry Ogunjobi got some snaps today too. Taking it easy, but it's good to see that he can actually like run and put some weight on his foot and use it a little bit. So that's nice to see. I'm excited for all those guys to start playing.
Yeah, me too. It's a really exciting era. People are brand new faces coming into Latrobe. It's a fun time. I'm excited to see what's going to come on in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, Mark and Mark Robinson too. I heard another rookie who did really well today. He had played some good pass coverage in like zone against some defended a Kenny pass pretty well and stopped that. Was really good at solidifying the run. So yeah, tons and tons of battles as we just saw the first day today. It was a Wednesday. Obviously, this will come out tomorrow. More news are going to come out. But, oh, man, it just feels like we're so close. Like, football is back, man. And that first preseason game is just a couple weeks away. And there is so many players to watch. I don't want to get into it now because the week before the first preseason game, because they play Saturday, August 13th. So on that Wednesday, we'll talk about it. But I've already started my list, and I'll make sure we share it on Twitter or whatever. I've already started my list about who to watch. And I only have the draft class and free agents on there. But it's going to be a big list. There's so many players to watch because I usually put on there the draft class from last year. I don't know if I'll include Najee. I feel like he's kind of proved himself. But I usually put the draft class from last year. I might put the one 2 years before that because I would still like to see Claypool improve and other players from the 2020 class. I'm going to pick some random ones like Akello. Like Akello, Carl Joseph, if I'm saying that correctly. Yeah, it's Carl Joseph. Okay. Put some of those guys on there. I mean, there's the defensive scheme in general. There's a lot. I mean, there's so many players to look at.
You know who just made my list was the guy who intercepted Kenny Pickett today, Mr. Carlin's Platel.
Yeah, exactly.
I had no idea who the heck this guy is, but and he just made a name for himself today. So it's exciting. There's always a possibility to change your life in this time of the year, especially as a young football player. So it's really exciting. A long list, like you said, is going to be made. And gosh, I'm so ready for it, Dom.
Wow, that was beautiful. Change your life. So nice.
Play the piano. No, I'm kidding.
It's good. I was like, it's gonna take me 20 seconds to turn on. So yeah, man. Do you have? It's so early, and I feel like we saw like the practices are a little shorter. Do you have like any bold predictions, or is it kind of too early to tell? What do you think for this training camp, at least in terms of position battles and whatnot?
As far as like who's gonna win what?
Anything, sure, but like anything at all, I suppose.
That's a good question. I definitely came prepared for this one.
It is kind of big in general, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, here's my question for you. Kind of talking about the wide receivers because I know we touched on that a little bit, but like obviously with the situation with DJ being so unknown as to what's to come next year. Do you think the Steelers will still try to keep a set amount of receivers, or do you think they'll try to keep one extra knowing that he could potentially be gone the following year?
No, because practice spots don't really count for that.
Yeah.
So you can have receivers on the practice squad, and you can protect them too, and that doesn't really count towards your 53-man roster. Yeah. So I would say no. I would right now. The thing is like someone made a good point with the way Pickens is playing, and really it doesn't make you want to rush to go sign Deontay. Now, however,
Yep.
he will be playing this year. I'm excited to see, especially with our quarterbacks, if they can get it going. Deontay and Claypool on the out, or Deontay and Pickens on the outside and Claypool in the slot. I think that's a killer recipe.
Yep.
Because you're just counting on those three. That doesn't account for Freiermuth. That doesn't account for Najee out of the backfield or
Yep.
somebody else. I think that is super super killer. So I would love to see that. But like people are saying, if Pickens is going to play that well and Deontay wants that money, like we talked about before in the past, there is that mindset of drafting another receiver, and so you don't have to pay that one. And we have talked about Jordan Addison in the past, who could drop because he's not happy at USC right now, depending on how he plays. And he played with Kenny, and that could be a direction they go. He has kind of a similar skill set to Deontay, and if Deontay doesn't really pan out this year or whatever, for whatever reason, they don't want to pay him the money that he thinks he needs, then that's a direction they could definitely go for sure.
Sure. So here's going to be my hot takes. All right.
Sure.
I think Miles Boykin is not going to make the team. He's going to be on the practice squad.
Okay.
I think Mateo Durant is going to make a roster spot. One of the three.
That's a hot take.
And the person who I think is not going to be in the top three is Anthony McFarland.
Oh, you're killing me.
I'm doing this because I think it's fun.
I don't know why I'm
full discretion.
I don't know why I'm such an Ant fan, but I am. I want to see him succeed
because I feel like he has so much to offer, but we just haven't seen his full potential yet.
Right.
You know. I think. Okay. I think we will keep all the safeties except for one. Because I feel like because Miles Killebrew is going to stay because he's such a special teamer.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think Trey Norwood showed enough to keep a spot.
Hopefully.
For certain packages like dime or whatever. I think the interesting one is Kazi. Because, I don't know, I mean, he did well with Atlanta, but, like, I feel like he can still make a roster spot. Minka and Terrell are going to make it. And then who's the other one?
Carl Joseph.
I think Carl Joseph's going to be the one to leave.
Thing is it very well could be, because he was on the practice squad last year and he's been released before. The thing with Carl Joseph is you never know who a player's going to play in a different scheme. The Steelers have a really good defensive scheme. And Carl Joseph was once a first-round pick. Now, I know it doesn't mean for jack squat because you've had terrible first-round picks in the past in the NFL, right? But he was a first-round pick at one point. So I'm excited to see, can he do anything? Now, by the end of preseason, I'll be like, nope, he can't. See ya, But that's yet to be proven. So I'm excited to see kind of how that battle goes. I guess as far as like a training camp battle, I don't know if I have a hot take. I'll let you finish off. I saw your hand up. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, my last thing is I feel like the quarterback battle is going to be very dependent on who can manage the middle of the field the best.
Oh, I like that. That's a great take. And you know who throws in the middle of the field the best?
Mason, the Dent Rudolph.
Mason? I just talked about how he throws behind the middle of the field.
I know. That's why I said it.
Kenny Pickett. Here's my bold prediction for you. This is very bold. And this has nothing to do with training camp battles, nothing. First preseason game. Especially, this is probably even more bold if he's a third stringer. The first touchdown will be from Kenny.
Ooh, I like it.
It's very bold. Why? I don't know. So does I have. I can also see Mitch, though, like, throwing a bomb first drive for a touchdown, too, to Pickens.
Sure. I also see Mason Rudolph going 8 for 10 for 21 yards.
Yeah, it's accurate. 8 for 10 for like 46 and a pick.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for this week. We're excited. The training camp's here. This is just the first day, and there was just so much information. Again, follow Alex Kozora and Nick Farabah for more info. We'll be tweeting about our own reactions, our own opinions on those things. And next week is going to be crazy because we're going to have a full week of training camps to talk about. We're excited to bring that and talk about that with you. We'll also be talking to one of Ian's again about your fandom and how you grew up. So stick around with that. You make sure to follow us on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Grubhub, on McDonald's, and Chris, you got anything to say to the people?
Like every other week, I do not. So,
all right. Thank you guys again for listening and joining in. I am Dominic. This is Chris, and we'll see you guys next week.
Peace out.
Deuces.